The US-Iran peace deal is being projected as a major diplomatic breakthrough, but the bigger question is whether it signals a real shift for the world economy. With oil markets, global trade routes, inflation and investor sentiment all reacting, the ripple effects could extend far beyond West Asia. So we'll be finding out the answers today and ask whether this is a genuine reset in the global economic outlook or just a fragile pause that markets may be pricing in too quickly. And to discuss more on this, we are being joined by Jonathan List, Deputy Director of the think tank British Influence and journalist, live from London. Well, thank you so much, Jonathan, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Right, I'll just dive right into it. The US-Iran peace deal is being seen as, more than a diplomatic breakthrough. Do you think it can actually reshape the global economy, or is the market reacting too quickly?
I think it really remains to be seen. What we've had is, a constant talk of the peace deal between the United States and Iran. But, even after the deal was signed, after weeks of Trump saying it was going to happen, you had Iran saying it was going to close the Strait of Hormuz because Israel had been attacking Lebanon. And that was a breach of the ceasefire, according to Iran. So I think that, broadly speaking, I agree that the war is probably finished because Trump doesn't want to take it further, frankly. It's been a complete strategic disaster. I don't know what the effects of the economy are going to be going forward, except that there's not going to be any immediate rebound. Things are not going to go back to the status quo ante. Partly that's because a lot of the effects have not actually been felt yet, because obviously oil storage has been holding up. But a lot of the knock-on effects that would have started a few months ago when the war started are only going to be feeding into the supply chains now. So we hope that the worst can be avoided. Obviously, now that the deal has been signed, obviously we hope that the deal stays signed and that a full peace deal emerges after a memorandum of understanding that was signed the other day. But we're not out of the woods yet, and we don't know exactly how big the economic damage will be long term.
Right. We'll just go forward with oil. So how much of the global trade system is tied to stability in the Strait of Hormuz? And would this deal, according to you, reduce one of the biggest risks in shipping and supply chains?
Well, of course, if the Straits of Hormuz are fully open again, then, and ships can pass through it in the way that they were before the war started, then obviously that's going to be a great boon for the economy. But as I say, it doesn't mean that things are going to go back to exactly how they were before the war, because you have had such a chokehold for such a long time now. You've had the straits closed since the end of February. That's 4 months, and obviously that's caused massive damage to the global economy. And as I said, some of that hasn't actually been felt yet, particularly in terms of fertilizer not being allowed to pass through the Straits of Hormuz, which is sort of causing major disruption to sort of food supplies as well, and will cause major disruption to food supplies in Africa as well as parts of Asia. So if the Straits of Hormuz can just go back to how they were, which has not actually happened yet, of course, but if it does happen that way, then still the economy is not going to snap back to normal. There's still going to be a lot of effects down the line. But obviously, it's better that the Straits of Hormuz can return to how they were rather than not. But of course, there's still the issue of mines that exist in that Strait of water. So it will take a while for things to go back. But also, the main point here is a political one, because Iran now has learned something that it didn't know before the war, and it never tested before the war, which is that it can close the straits effectively any time that it wants. And if it can do that, then it has a huge lever over the global economy that it didn't have before and didn't use. So that is another catastrophic failure of this war, because the main effect of this war is to give Iran more power than it had before the war, which is obviously the last thing that the United States wanted.
Right, and for businesses, investors and consumers alike around the world, what would be the clearest sign that this deal is would produce a real economic shift rather than just a short-term relief rally?
Well, I suppose the best thing that could happen for sort of confidence and for investors, etc., is to see all mines removed from the Straits of Hormuz, to see a full peace deal, and to see that peace deal being upheld. Because if you have a peace deal that depends on a country that has effectively gone rogue, which is Israel, and with a government that is now seeking to openly defy the United States, and you're seeing some remarkable statements from the United States leaders, language that you've probably never heard before, about how the vice presidents are telling Israel that they should actually not upset the only ally it has, for example, and sort of outright criticizing a lot of Israel's actions. That is very, very unusual for the United States. So Israel has the capacity potentially to derail whatever peace deal does get signed between the US and Iran. So obviously there are lots of pieces in the puzzle, but if the peace deal is fully signed and Iran demonstrates that it has, for example, demined the strait, because a lot of shipping companies will be very, very nervous about using the Straits of Hormuz, even if Iran says it's fully open, because obviously there is that risk of mines, which Iran says it used during the war. So if you have the peace deal that's signed and Israel follows it, and the United States follows it, and Iran follows it, and Iran says that the Straits of Hormuz are now free of any potential danger to shipping, then things can go back to how they were potentially in some months, or maybe longer than months, perhaps over a year, because you've had all this blockage so far and all these disruptions to the global economy, and that's not just going to be solved and fixed overnight.
Right, and before we wrap up this chat, I just want to ask you this one question. Is this the beginning of a more stable global economic phase, or just a pause before markets face the same risks yet again?
Well, I wish I had a crystal ball and could tell you the answer to that question, because what you've seen is a huge disruptor in the global economy. And that's actually one man, that's Donald Trump, who is basically unhinged and incredibly unpredictable. And, he seems to be enjoying his power very much. And he enjoys the power to upset the global economy in all sorts of ways, and also the US domestic market. He already said that he doesn't care about inflation, which probably went down like a bucket of cold stick in America. So if there are no more shocks, if he doesn't sort of pull any more surprises, if he doesn't invade Cuba or anything, although that probably wouldn't have such a terrible effect on the global economy, it would be very bad for the United States and for Cuba, of course, then things can probably be a little bit calmer. But as we know from the last 10 years, and longer in fact, you can never guarantee or predict stability for long, because you never know when something's going to come around the corner, whether it's the Russian invasion of Ukraine, or COVID, of course, which no one's still coming, or this invasion of Iran, which Donald Trump obviously saw coming, and it's been a complete catastrophe, both politically and economically.
Right, I hear you, Jonathan. But the big takeaway is that this is not just about diplomacy, it is about the price of energy, the movement of goods, and the confidence of global markets. Even if the deal holds, the real test will be whether it delivers stable trade, low risk, and a lasting economic reset. We'll have to wait and see, but thank you so much for joining us and giving us your insights on the same. Thank you.
Thank you.